Chapter 16, Excerpted and Adapted, of Lyddie by Katherine Paterson. Fever. Taking money out of the bank felt like getting a tooth yanked out, but Lyddie knew she had to care for Rachel. She paid Mrs. Bedloe $2 for feeding and keeping her sister. For Rachel, she bought new shoes, a shawl, a dress, a beginner reader, and a book of verses to teach Rachel how to read. At work, Bridget was slower than ever. At last, Lyddie exploded when once again the girl's inattention caused a snarl and a ruined peace. "You must mind, girl," she shouted. "Forget everything else but the loom." "But I cannot forget," Bridget cried out. "Me mother's sick unto death and no money for a doctor." "Here!" Lyddie snatched all the change from her apron pocket and stuffed it into Bridget's. "That's for the doctor. Now, mind the machine, eh?" The next few days, Rachel seemed to improve. She said a few words, and Lyddie even made her smile when she read aloud from the book of verses. Work was going better as well. Bridget was pathetically grateful for her gift. She beat Lyddie to work in the mornings and had 2 of the machines oiled and gleaming before Lyddie even entered the room. Mr. Marsden was very pleased. It was a Thursday in May, and the room felt hot and steamier than ever. By the end of the day, Lyddie was so exhausted and overheated that she felt she must either lie down or faint. That was when Mr. Marsden stopped her from leaving. He placed his fat white hands heavily on either sleeve, dragging his weight on her arms. He was saying something as well, but her head was pounding and she couldn't make it out. What did he want with her? She had to go. She had to see Rachel. Her whole body was on fire. She needed a cool cloth for her head. And yet he kept holding on to her. She tried to stare him down, but her eyes were burning in their sockets. "Let me go," she wanted to cry. She tried to pull back from him, but he clutched tighter. He was bringing his strange little mouth closer and closer to her face. Lyddie didn't know what made her decide, but she raised her boot heel and stomped with all her might on the overseer's foot. As he bent over in pain and released his grip, she escaped and made it back to the boarding house. Lyddie did not go to work for many days. She was sick with fever and was out of her mind. Once she felt a small hand on her forehead. Another time she saw Dr. Morris bending over her. Sometimes Mrs. Bedloe was spooning broth into her mouth. Diana visited, and Bridget, who brought an Irish concoction meant for sick people and made Lyddie swallow some of it. Lyddie was worried that Rachel would catch the fever and tried to tell someone to separate Rachel from her. But either she never got the words out, or people didn't understand or listen to her, because every time Lyddie woke up, Rachel was there. One morning, Lyddie opened her eyes and lifted up her body. Rachel raised up from the other bed. "You're awake!" she cried. "Lyddie, you didn't die!" She fell back onto her pillow. "No," she said weakly. "Not yet. We can still hop."